This was the picture of the author at about the time he wrote the novel Wonder. It was on the back of the original edition of Wonder, so 1962-63. And this is the picture of the author that was on the back of the 25th or 30th reprinting of that novel. It tells you two things. It tells you that a novelist's life is not an easy one. But it's interesting that the novel was republished that many times. That shows you how important it is in Flemish culture and the role it has played in Flemish culture. When Claus died last year, he had Alzheimer's for several years and took advantage of the laws in the Low Countries that allow you to decide your own fate. And he, at one lucid moment, said, "This is the time," and he did then die. I mean, you can say he committed suicide, you can call it whatever you like. And afterwards there were many obituaries, and they spoke about his work in various genres, because he is also a poet, he's also a playwright. He wrote about 20 plays, he wrote at least 10 novels, and 10 or 15 collections of poetry.
I think it's obvious that he is an enormous, big name, the biggest name in Dutch literature, and so that means in Flanders and as well in Holland, of course. He is equally respected in Holland as the greatest. And what's interesting about it is that he only passed away not even a year ago, and his success really started already 10 or 15 years ago. So it's not like only since he passed away we are aware of how great his legacy was. He has already reached that status about 10 or 12 years ago, and that is great. He's dearly missed. He has won several prizes, and he will probably remain the greatest name in literature for a while.
What you find out later on, and it takes you a while to find it out, is that the person who is writing this is actually in an asylum, an insane asylum, and that he is writing this document to convince his psychiatrist that he should be released. Of course, at this point you don't have any idea of that, but these strange little turns of phrase are indicative of what's going to happen. I hope that you also get an idea of the humor of this novel, which I think many people probably don't think of because there are so many dire things that happen in it. It's about the remains of the Flemish fascist party 20 years after the war. That's what supposedly the main topic is, but there are many, many other topics. But it starts out in this rather innocent way, but not quite so innocent way.
And he does that looking at religion very closely, very critically, looking at the Catholic Church and looking at its role in mobilizing masses of people to go and fight for belief and to go and fight for a religion that is supposedly under threat from godless communists coming from the East. And I mean, I know him very well because I've known people who were led to believe these things, who went to Jesuit colleges, who went to Mass every week, and I heard those sermons, calling their sons to go and fight, not for Germany, but to go and fight against the godless communists who would threaten and destroy the Catholic Church and the belief and the religion.
You don't realize where he is, you don't realize who he is, until the sections that begin notebooks come up. And it takes a while for you to understand that these notebooks are the notebooks of the person who is writing the main part of the story. The notebooks are written to himself, and the main part of the story is written to the psychiatrist. But when we read the notebooks written to himself, we realize that he is, in fact, mad. This is my notebook. 18th of October. This notebook was given to me by Ferdina. No one will ever know, she promised me. And today marks the 5th day since Cornel is his doctor, his psychiatrist, gave me a stack of paper and a loose leaf binder together with a pen holder made of heavily fibrous wood that had been dipped in red ink. Chew on it hard and you can taste the ink. At first the attendants, that's the first time you get the idea that he's incarcerated. At first we don't know who Cornel is. I'm telling you that Cornel is the doctor. You find that out later on. At first the attendants thought I was an artist, Ferdinand said, but Cornel set them straight. He also forbade them to disturb me while I write. So little by little we realize that Cornel is using this writing as a therapy. This novel also has sex and violence. The violence is the war, the sex is sex. It also has literature, and let me give you an example of a scene where the sex and literature are combined. De Heichel's wife, divorced wife, was one of his pupils, whom he ogled during the class, and she was doing the same to him. And here is the seduction scene. They've gone to a lumber merchants where they can hide, and it's the same lumber merchant that we find out later on plays a role in the war. This is, by the way, the novel was published in 1962, I think, and it reflects 1962 Belgian reality, but it does go back to the war. This is now in 1962. They are in this wood shed where they're hidden from everybody. Listen, she said, listen carefully. And then she said in English, what if I say I shall not wait? In the weak neon light that erased the childlike contours of her face, she smiled no more. I gasped for breath and ingested a mouthful of the wood-fouled air. So abrupt and unexpected was the shift to the Emily Dickinson poem I had just taught to the class, and is addressed to a dead woman, and had burst out of her girlish mouth so monstrously and with ravishing lubricity. Does she know the second line, I thought? Does she want me to recite it to her, even in this dirty, all-invasive light? I said the second line. What if I burst the fleshly gate, but could not go on? I was chewing on nettles. The roof of my mouth was ablaze. I mumbled a few hoarse words, chewing away, and as if by chance, she let her closed hand down on my crotch. I mumbled a few more hoarse words, and she fell against me, as she had seen women do on the screen, arms open wide, and licked my cheek like a cat, thrusting her breasts into me. What you've learned is that war is bad, that anything like this that forces people to do the kinds of things that they did, and it distorts a human psyche. And that's why he is the hero who has problems, let's say chemical problems, you know, internal chemical problems, is made much worse by it. It's because of war. If there hadn't been a war, he wouldn't have been in this situation. So, and that was something that Claus was saying 20 years after the war, because this came out about 1963. It was something that he was saying 40 years after the war, because the other book came. It was something that clearly he grew up during that time. He came to maturity at the same time that the hero of the Sorrows of Belgium came to maturity, and it obviously affected him for life. Well, do read the text. It's a wonderful, very, very rewarding work, and you will find all kinds of levels, and there's a lot more in it than I have hinted at, but it's a wonderful, wonderful work. Thank you.